to physical play. Let's talk about physical play. Most of us think about, when we talk about play, we think about physical play. And physical play is typically this, and it's critical for kids. And it's even more critical in 21st century United States than it has probably been at any other time in our history because of the childhood obesity epidemic. When we were all children, and I'm older than anybody in here except Lee and Tom. We're all the same age, but when we were kids, our moms would open the back door and we probably went outside to play, and we didn't come in until maybe lunchtime and dinner. I know Lee and I grew up in the same part of the country, and we didn't have walls. No, but there were no walls. So you took off, and the moms knew, every kid knew the sound of their own mom's voice. So you'd hear this dinner or lunchtime, and your own moms, and so it was a different time. With the advent of the television being in everyone's house, and then our hyperphobic fear of bad people, and I'm not saying that there aren't bad people out there, but we are oversensitized to this notion that everybody's coming along to grab our kids and run away with them. Our kids don't play like we used to. Now everything is prescripted. We have play groups. We meet for play groups. We script our kids into gymnastics and lessons, and kids are busy. I remember I used to belong to a group at my church, and I would meet with these women, and I was the only working mom in the group, but these women would have these daytimers that were filled with activities that their kids were doing. I said, when do the kids play? Play. They're in gymnastics, they're in violin, they're in after-school literacy groups. I'm going, when do they just play? And I do have a concern as a psychologist that we sometimes overregulate our kids' lives. Kids need an opportunity to burn off steam. Schools are cutting recess. We're not doing as many things. Kids aren't running like they used to. Let's talk briefly about physical play. Physical play is play that involves vigorous movement. This type of play increases during the toddler preschool years, with kids demonstrating progress in increasing strength and coordination. So the idea of physical play are things like running, jumping, hopping, skipping, chasing, rolling, tumbling, that we're not necessarily teaching them. We model them and then we cheer them on as they do it, but they need to do it. They need it because their muscles and bones have to have it to develop. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the Centers for Disease Control are clear on how much activity kids need. Kids need at least an hour a day of runaround playtime. They do. They really do need it. Exercise tends to decline during the primary grades, being supplanted with organized sports. So we see kids when they get into first, second, and third grade, we see them, we t-ball, and then they go into different sports. But not everybody is in organized sports, right? So we still have to offer our children opportunities to get exercise. Boys tend to engage in more physical play than girls. And call me a sexist if you want, but boys do have a different style of play than girls do, and it is not modeled by their parents. It is predetermined. It has to do with the muscle bulk. It has to do with it does. Say it louder. It has to do with the fact they're boys. Their brains are bathed in testosterone when they're in utero, and they need that kind of play. Particularly they do rough and tumble play. And there's lots of psychological stuff that goes along with that. It's normal for boys to wrestle and tumble. It's also normal for girls to do that to an extent. I come from an all-girl family. Believe me, I played football. My dad had played professional football, and I played football until the guys got taller than me. But other than that, I played football for a lot of years in sandlot, baseball. Girls play too. but we need to give kids opportunities to play. It's commonly thought that children today have fewer opportunities to have physical play than in the past. Inhibiting factors include the lack of access to outdoor play areas. We have a lot of walls in Arizona. Everybody's got a walled backyard. Dual working families. There's not a mom at home that the kids can just run out and run down the neighbors when we're working. We have more fear, and I, for one, who was always a working parent, and I understand that. Demands of formal schooling. And there's a fierce competition for competing priorities with TV and computers. So we got TV and computers over here, and we've got physical play over here. My other foot that's not in a cast is also in research around electronic books. So I have to tell you that I believe that we can have a balance, that kids can have TV time, computer time, and physical play, and still do well in school. Health. The exercise that children engage in during physical play promotes physical health, coordination, strength, and endurance. It consumes a lot of calories, helps prevent childhood obesity, which is becoming a national epidemic. If you don't believe me, pick up any pediatric medical journal, and you will find irrefutable evidence that our kids are heavier and less physically active. Physical play also has an effect on kids' social development, helping kids determine their peer group. Kids find peer groups that have like physical activities. We know it. There's an abundance of evidence, and kids will want to be in groups that do the things that they like. Active children tend to associate with other physically active children. Physical skill can also lead to increased self-confidence and popularity. We need to prompt kids into physical activity. I remember my neighbor said to me, Amanda's not as physically active as she should be. She had 2 boys. She said, my husband and I are going to start putting her, they were my babysitters when I was a single parent, and she said, we're going to start putting her in t-ball with our son. And I said, great. But my daughter also danced. She danced from the time she was 3 in really rigorous exercise in ballet. She was with the Ballet Arizona School and was very, very active in that. So there are different kinds of physical activity that kids can be engaged in. So what should we do? As a parent or a caregiver, make sure that your young children have access to outdoor play equipment and play areas, sandboxes, areas to run, areas to skip. Limit TV and video games. I am not here to tell people how to raise their kids, but I will tell you that from an educator's and from a psychological perspective, I think limiting TV, especially on school nights from an early age, is a really good plan. There's nothing they really need to see on television. And then if you want, give certain times that kids can watch television. Pick the shows that they can watch, and pick the things that your children look at on the computers. There is a lot of stuff out there that is not good. We all know that. And there is a lot of stuff on television that kids have absolutely no business being exposed to, even during what we consider family hour on TV. I'm not a big TV watcher, but I did wander in and catch a show that's on at 7 o'clock every night that has some of the most inappropriate innuendos and out inappropriate stuff for young kids to be exposed to. We live in Arizona. Most of our evenings around that time are lovely. Kids can be walking. Families can do activities together. I urge you to think about that. You need to see the bright side of rough and tumble play. Most of us think, oh, that's bad. It really isn't. It's a way that kids exercise. There's a physical bonding that goes with rough and tumble play. It's okay. I was at the International Conference on Play last summer in Portugal, and I was giving this presentation to a bunch of other people like me that study play, and this one person came up to me and said, your play is too prescriptive here. You need to let kids be much more rough and tumble. And I thought about what she was saying, and I agree. I actually agree with this woman, that we do need to give kids this opportunity to roll around and be kids. And it's through that kind of stuff that they do start making choices about behaviors. And then when we see kids that can't set limits, then we can work with those children to help them set limits on their play.